However, anytime we do find something that in any other culture would be insignificant, the Israel Antiquities Authority saves it.
When construction workers broke through the ground in Jerusalem's Old City, they discovered something that changed everything. A sealed cave lay hidden beneath the ancient stones, untouched for centuries. Within hours, authorities arrived and locked down the entire area. Heavy security went up and workers were silenced. Now, months later, officials still refuse to explain what they found inside. What could be so important that it requires this level of secrecy? What ancient secret lies beneath Jerusalem's streets? Join us as we uncover the mystery of the sealed cave that authorities desperately want to keep hidden. The discovery that changed everything. On a warm morning in Jerusalem's Old City, a team of construction workers gathered at their usual site. They were there to break ground for a new building project, just another day of routine work in one of the world's oldest cities. The crew fired up their heavy machinery and began digging into the ancient soil beneath their feet. Nobody expected what would happen next. Around mid-morning, the ground suddenly gave way. A large section of earth collapsed inward with a thunderous rumble that echoed through the narrow streets. Dust clouds billowed upward as workers scrambled back from the edge of a newly formed crater. When the dust finally settled, they saw something that made their hearts race. There, in the middle of the construction site, was a dark opening leading straight down into the earth. The foreman approached the edge carefully and peered into the darkness below. He could see rough stone steps carved into the rock, descending into shadows that his eyes could not penetrate. The air rising from the hole felt cool and ancient, carrying with it the smell of earth that had been sealed away for countless years. This was not just any cave. Someone had carved those steps deliberately long ago. Word spread quickly through the crew. Workers gathered around the opening, whispering among themselves about what might lie beneath their feet. Jerusalem sits atop layers and layers of history. Beneath every street, under every building, there are secrets waiting to be discovered. Ancient tunnels wind through the bedrock like veins. Hidden chambers hold fragments of civilizations that rose and fell over thousands of years. But this felt different somehow. One of the younger workers volunteered to climb down and take a quick look. He grabbed a flashlight and carefully made his way down the ancient steps. His light beam cut through the darkness, revealing walls covered in strange markings. The chamber below was larger than anyone had expected. As he swept his light across the space, he saw things that made him call urgently for the others to come down. But before more workers could descend, something unexpected happened. Authorities arrived at the site within the hour. They came quickly and in large numbers. Israeli Antiquities Authority officials, police officers, and other government representatives swarmed the construction site. They ordered all workers to leave immediately and began setting up barriers around the entire area. Heavy security fences went up within hours. Guards were posted at every access point. The construction company received orders to halt all work indefinitely. Workers who had glimpsed inside the cave were told not to speak about what they had seen. The entire site was declared off-limits to everyone except authorized personnel. Within 24 hours, the bustling construction site had transformed into a heavily guarded mystery. News began to spread through Jerusalem's streets. People whispered and wondered. What had those workers found beneath the ancient stones? Why were the authorities acting with such urgency and secrecy? And most importantly, what were they trying to hide from the world? The sealed cave beneath Jerusalem had been opened, and someone clearly did not want anyone to know what was inside. The official silence. The Israeli Antiquities Authority wasted no time taking complete control of the site. Within days, the area looked more like a military zone than an archaeological dig. Tall metal barriers surrounded the entire block, blocking any view of what was happening inside. Security cameras appeared on every corner, their lenses watching for anyone who got too close. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter day and night, turning away curious locals and reporters alike. The government's response felt extreme, even for Jerusalem. This city has seen countless archaeological discoveries over the years. Ancient pottery, old coins, buried walls from temples and palaces. Usually, officials welcome such finds with excitement and pride. They hold press conferences, invite cameras, and celebrate the addition to their nation's rich history. But not this time. This time, they built walls and hired guards. When reporters started asking questions, The answers they received were frustratingly vague. A spokesperson for the Antiquities Authority gave a brief statement saying only that the site required careful examination. They promised more information would come later, but that later never arrived. Government officials who normally loved talking to the press suddenly had nothing to say. Every inquiry hit the same brick wall of silence. Meanwhile, the construction workers who had been there that first day found themselves in an uncomfortable position. Some received visits from officials who reminded them about the importance of protecting sensitive archaeological sites. Others signed papers agreeing not to discuss what they had seen. But people talk, especially when they have seen something extraordinary. Soon, whispered stories began spreading through the neighborhoods. A few workers spoke to friends and family members, asking them to keep the information secret. Those friends told other friends, and slowly fragments of the story leaked out. The accounts varied in details, but certain elements appeared again and again. They spoke of descending into a chamber that felt impossibly old. The air down there was different, they said, heavy and still, like nobody had breathed it in ages. The workers described markings on the walls that looked unlike anything they had seen before. These were not random scratches or simple decorations. The symbols seemed purposeful, arranged in patterns that suggested meaning and importance. Some workers mentioned seeing objects scattered across the floor of the chamber, though they had only caught glimpses before being ordered to leave. What struck everyone most was the condition of the cave itself. The entrance had been deliberately sealed. Large stones had been carefully placed to block the opening, then covered with earth and smaller rocks. Someone had gone to great trouble to hide this place and make sure it stayed hidden. The question that haunted everyone was simple: why? As weeks passed, the security around the site only grew tighter. The government showed no signs of relaxing its grip on information. Reporters camped outside the barriers, hoping for a scoop. Local residents traded theories over coffee and meals. Tourists added the mysterious sealed site to their list of Jerusalem's unexplained wonders. But inside those metal walls, behind all that security, the real work continued. And whatever the authorities had found down there, they clearly had no intention of sharing it with the world anytime soon. Sacred ground and hidden history. Jerusalem is not just any city. It sits at the crossroads of three major religions, each claiming deep spiritual connections to the ancient stones beneath their feet. Every tunnel, every cave, every hidden chamber could potentially rewrite history or challenge long-held beliefs. This makes any discovery here far more complicated than simple archaeology. The most exciting theory centered on the Jewish temples that once stood in Jerusalem. The first temple, built by King Solomon, was destroyed centuries before the Common Era. The second temple met the same fate when Roman armies razed it to the ground. Both temples held sacred objects of immense religious importance, and according to ancient texts, some of these treasures disappeared before the temples fell. Legends speak of priests who knew destruction was coming. They supposedly hid the most precious items in secret chambers beneath the temple grounds, planning to retrieve them when it was safe. But that time never came. The priests died, the knowledge died with them, and the treasures remained hidden. For centuries, people have searched for these lost relics, dreaming of the day they might be found. Could this sealed cave be one of those hiding places? The location certainly made it possible. The old city sits very close to where the temples once stood. Underground passages and chambers connect various parts of the ancient city, some known and mapped, others still waiting to be discovered. A cave sealed deliberately, hidden with such care, suggested something valuable lay inside. Some experts pointed to another famous discovery for comparison. Decades ago, a young shepherd stumbled upon the Dead Sea Scrolls in caves near the Dead Sea. Those ancient texts revolutionized understanding of early Judaism and Christianity. They had been hidden in sealed jars, tucked away in remote caves, preserved for centuries. If scrolls could survive that long, what else might be waiting in sealed chambers? Others suggested the cave might have been a hiding place during one of the many revolts against Roman rule. When rebellions failed and Roman soldiers swept through the city, people needed places to hide themselves and their possessions. They carved out chambers in the rock, stocked them with supplies, and sealed the entrances to avoid detection. Archaeological evidence of such hideouts exists throughout the region, but none of these theories fully explained the extreme secrecy surrounding this particular discovery. Jerusalem has seen plenty of exciting archaeological finds over the years. Each one generated headlines and scholarly excitement. Museums proudly displayed newly discovered artifacts. Documentaries explored their significance. Yet here, authorities treated this cave differently, as if it held something beyond the usual historical interest. The involvement of religious authorities added another layer to the mystery. Representatives from various religious groups had been spotted entering the secured site. They stayed for hours, emerging with serious expressions, but saying nothing to the waiting reporters. Their presence suggested the discovery touched on matters of faith, not just history. Israeli law protects sacred sites with special care. Anything connected to the ancient temples receives the highest level of preservation and respect. If the cave truly held temple treasures or religiously significant items, that would explain the cautious approach. But it would also raise enormous questions about what to do with such discoveries in a city where every stone carries political and spiritual weight. The investigation behind closed doors. Behind the security barriers, a very different scene was unfolding. Teams of archaeologists worked carefully inside the sealed cave, moving with the patience that their profession demands. Unlike treasure hunters in movies, real archaeologists treat every grain of dirt as potentially important. They document everything, photograph from every angle, and proceed with extreme caution. The process of exploring an ancient sealed chamber follows strict protocols. First, specialists analyze the air quality to ensure it is safe to breathe. Sealed spaces can trap dangerous gases or harbor toxic mold after sitting undisturbed for centuries. Once the air checks out, they set up proper lighting systems that illuminate without generating heat that might damage delicate materials. Next comes the mapping phase. Modern technology allows archaeologists to create detailed maps of underground spaces using laser scanners and imaging equipment. These tools capture every curve of the walls, every irregularity in the floor, every shadow that might indicate a hidden recess. The resulting images let researchers study the space from their computers, planning their next moves carefully. Photography happens before anyone touches anything. Multiple cameras capture the scene exactly as it was found. Wide shots show the overall layout. Close-ups reveal individual objects and markings. This visual record becomes crucial because the act of excavation itself destroys the original context. Once something is moved, it can never be replaced exactly as it was. Only after all this documentation do the archaeologists begin collecting artifacts. They work in grids, dividing the space into small sections and processing each one completely before moving to the next. Every object gets tagged with information about exactly where it was found and in what position. Soil samples are collected and analyzed. Even the tiniest fragments get saved because they might provide important clues. The timeline for such work stretches far longer than most people realize. A chamber that can be photographed in minutes might take months or even years to excavate properly. Rushing risks destroying irreplaceable information. Missing a small detail could mean losing the key to understanding the entire site. This explains why authorities often keep discoveries quiet until the work is complete. But the secrecy around this particular cave went beyond normal archaeological caution. Usually, at least some preliminary information gets released to satisfy public curiosity. Researchers publish papers about their findings. Museums announce upcoming exhibitions. The scholarly community buzzes with debate and discussion. Here, nothing emerged except silence. International pressure began building as word of the discovery spread beyond Israel's borders. Archaeological associations from around the world requested access to the site, or at least to preliminary reports. Universities wanted to send their experts to consult. Foreign governments, particularly those with interests in biblical archaeology, made formal inquiries through diplomatic channels. The Israeli government responded to all these requests with the same answer. The investigation was ongoing and required complete security until further notice. They promised transparency eventually, but gave no timeline for when that might happen. This stonewalling only fueled more suspicion and speculation. Critics argued that such secrecy violated the principles of open scientific inquiry. Archaeological discoveries belong to all of humanity, they claimed, not to any single nation. but the authorities held firm, insisting they were following proper procedures and would share information when appropriate. Meanwhile, inside that sealed chamber, the work continued away from prying eyes, and whatever secrets lay hidden there remained locked behind official silence. What could be hidden below? The complete lack of official information created a perfect breeding ground for theories. Without facts to anchor their thinking, people let their imaginations run wild. Some theories seemed reasonable based on Jerusalem's history. Others ventured into territory that made even enthusiastic believers shake their heads. But somewhere in the middle lay possibilities that were both exciting and plausible. The most straightforward explanation suggested the cave was simply a natural formation that people used for storage or shelter at some point in history. Jerusalem sits on limestone, a type of rock that water can carve into caves and tunnels over thousands of years. Ancient residents often took advantage of these natural spaces, using them as wells, storage rooms, or places to hide during attacks. Medieval records mention numerous underground chambers throughout the Old City. Crusaders built elaborate tunnel systems. Islamic rulers added their own networks of passages. Ottoman administrators constructed cisterns and storage facilities. Any of these groups might have sealed a cave for reasons lost to time. Perhaps it held supplies that were never retrieved. Maybe it served as a tomb that descendants forgot about. Yet this theory had problems. Natural caves rarely have the carefully carved steps that workers describe seeing, and medieval or Ottoman-era construction would not typically generate such extreme modern secrecy. Authorities deal with finds from these periods regularly without turning sites into fortresses. More intriguing possibilities emerged when considering earlier time periods. Jerusalem's history stretches back thousands of years, into ages when written records were rare or non-existent. The city has been destroyed and rebuilt so many times that entire neighborhoods from ancient eras now lie buried beneath newer construction. Archaeological precedent supported the idea of significant finds. Tunnels from the First Temple period have been discovered running beneath parts of the Old City. These passages show sophisticated engineering, with precise measurements and careful construction. If ancient builders created those known tunnels, they certainly could have created others that remain hidden. The Ark of the Covenant represents the ultimate prize in biblical archaeology. This sacred chest supposedly held the stone tablets bearing the Ten Commandments. Ancient texts describe it in detail, but its final location remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Theories place it everywhere from Ethiopia to hidden chambers beneath the Temple Mount. Could it be in this newly discovered cave? The possibility, however remote, would certainly justify extreme secrecy. Temple treasures offer another compelling explanation. Historical accounts describe enormous wealth held in the Jewish temples: gold menorahs, silver vessels, precious gems, and sacred implements. When the Romans sacked the Second Temple, they carried away cartloads of treasure. But some items might have been hidden before the soldiers arrived. A sealed chamber containing even a fraction of these objects would be archaeologically priceless. Ancient scrolls represent perhaps the most realistic valuable discovery. The Dead Sea Scrolls prove that written documents can survive for centuries in the right conditions. A sealed, dry cave provides nearly perfect preservation. Religious texts, historical records, or unknown writings from biblical times would revolutionize understanding of ancient Judaism and early Christianity. But here is what makes this case truly puzzling. Jerusalem has yielded all sorts of amazing discoveries over the years: ancient inscriptions, royal seals, temple artifacts, and priceless manuscripts. Each find generated excitement and scholarly attention. None prompted this level of secrecy. Whatever lies in that cave, it must be something extraordinary, something that goes beyond typical archaeological significance. A pattern of secrecy. This was not the first time authorities in Jerusalem had clamped down hard on information about an archaeological discovery. Looking back through history reveals a pattern of similar incidents where exciting finds were met with tight security and official silence. Understanding these past cases helps put the current mystery into perspective. Decades ago, excavations near the Temple Mount uncovered tunnels that sparked immediate controversy. The work happened quietly at first, with minimal public announcement. When news finally broke, it triggered protests and international outcry. The tunnels ran beneath religiously sensitive areas, touching on disputes that went far beyond archaeology. Authorities learned from that experience that some discoveries are better kept quiet until all the political implications can be properly managed. Another incident involved workers renovating an old building who stumbled upon a hidden chamber filled with ancient artifacts. The site was immediately sealed, and the workers sworn to secrecy. Months passed before any official statement emerged. When details finally came out, the artifacts turned out to be significant but not earth-shattering. The delay had been purely precautionary, protecting the site from looters and giving experts time to work undisturbed. International examples show similar patterns. In Egypt, authorities sometimes keep major tomb discoveries under wraps for years while excavation proceeds. They learned the hard way that premature announcements can bring problems. Looters target announced sites. Political groups make claims on artifacts. Tourist crowds damage delicate locations. Better to work in peace and reveal findings when the job is complete. The Vatican archives provide another comparison. For centuries, the Catholic Church maintained vast collections of documents that few outsiders could access. Researchers begged for permission to study these materials, convinced they held secrets about early Christianity and medieval history. The Church insisted the secrecy protected fragile documents and prevented misinterpretation. Only gradually, over many years, did they open more materials to scholarly review. Some past cover-ups were later exposed as justified precautions. Archaeologists working in conflict zones often hide their most important finds to prevent them from being stolen or destroyed. During times of war and instability, keeping treasures secret means keeping them safe. Once peace returns, the artifacts can be properly studied and displayed. Other cases revealed less noble motivations. Political leaders sometimes suppressed discoveries that contradicted their preferred narratives about history. Religious authorities occasionally hid findings that might challenge traditional beliefs. Academic rivals kept information from each other to maintain competitive advantages. Not every secret serves the greater good. What makes the Jerusalem cave different is the combination of factors. The extreme security measures suggest something truly significant. The involvement of religious authorities hints at spiritual implications. The government's absolute refusal to release even basic information indicates political sensitivity. When you add these elements together, they point toward a discovery that crosses multiple boundaries. History shows that eventually, almost everything comes to light. Even the most carefully guarded secrets tend to leak over time. Documents get declassified. Participants grow old and decide to talk. New technologies reveal what was previously hidden. The question is not whether the truth about this cave will emerge, but when and under what circumstances. For now, the pattern continues. Authorities maintain their silence. Security stays tight. Speculation grows wilder with each passing week. And somewhere beneath Jerusalem's ancient streets, the sealed cave holds its secrets, waiting for the day when the world will finally learn what lies inside. The current standoff. Months have passed since construction workers first broke through into that hidden chamber, and the situation has barely changed. The security barriers still surround the site like fortress walls. Guards continue their patrols, turning away anyone who approaches without proper authorization. Cameras watch every angle, recording everything that happens near the sealed entrance. The message is clear: stay away. What little information has trickled out only deepens the mystery. An official statement released weeks after the discovery confirmed that the site contains materials of historical significance. That was it. No details about what kind of materials, how old they might be, or why they require such extraordinary protection. The statement promised updates as the investigation progressed, but those updates never came. Public frustration has been building steadily. Local residents feel they have a right to know what was found beneath their city. Jerusalem belongs to everyone who lives there, they argue, not just to government officials and academic experts. Protests have erupted outside the barriers, with people demanding transparency and accountability. Tourism in the area has actually increased because of the mystery. Visitors who come to Jerusalem now make a point of walking past the sealed site. They take photographs of the barriers and guards, adding them to their collections of Holy Land images. Tour guides have incorporated the mystery into their narratives, spinning tales of hidden treasures and ancient secrets. The unknown has become its own attraction. Legal challenges have emerged from unexpected quarters. A group of archaeologists filed a lawsuit demanding access to the site, or at least to preliminary research reports. They argue that keeping such a discovery completely secret violates academic principles and international agreements about cultural heritage. The case is working its way through courts, but legal proceedings move slowly, and authorities show no signs of buckling under pressure. International media attention comes and goes in waves. When the story first broke, reporters from around the world descended on Jerusalem. They filmed the barriers, interviewed frustrated locals, and speculated endlessly about what might be hidden below. Then other news pushed the story aside, and the reporters moved on to fresh headlines. But every few weeks, someone publishes a new article reviving interest, and the cycle begins again. Independent researchers have tried to gather information through creative means. Some have interviewed everyone who was at the construction site that first day, piecing together a picture from fragments of memory. A few have even attempted to access city records about what lies beneath that particular plot of land, though most such requests get denied or ignored. Meanwhile, life goes on around the sealed site. Shops open and close. People walk their usual routes through the old city. Children play in nearby streets. The mystery has become part of the neighborhood fabric, something residents mention casually when giving directions or describing their area. That place where they found something and won't tell anyone what it is. Inside the barriers, work presumably continues, though even that remains uncertain. Occasionally, vehicles enter the secured area, their contents hidden beneath tarps. Sometimes people in official-looking clothing go in and stay for hours before emerging, but nobody talks, and nobody explains what is happening there. The mystery that remains. The question that haunts everyone is simple, yet profound. Why would authorities go to such extreme lengths to keep this discovery secret? In a world where information spreads instantly and transparency is increasingly expected, maintaining this level of silence requires tremendous effort and resources. There must be a reason that justifies the cost. Perhaps the most unsettling possibility is that what lies in that cave challenges fundamental beliefs or historical narratives. Throughout history, discoveries that contradict established truths have been suppressed or hidden. Religious institutions have buried evidence that questions their doctrines. Governments have concealed findings that undermine their legitimacy. Could this cave contain something so controversial that revealing it would cause more harm than good? The physical evidence available paints a tantalizing but incomplete picture. Workers described ancient steps carved with precision, suggesting skilled craftsmen and important purpose. The sealed entrance indicates deliberate concealment, not accidental burial. Markings on the walls hint at symbolic or religious significance. Objects scattered inside could be anything from simple pottery to priceless artifacts. These fragments create a puzzle with too many missing pieces. Comparing what officials say with what eyewitnesses report reveals troubling inconsistencies. The government claims normal archaeological procedures are being followed. Workers insist the response was anything but normal. Officials describe routine examination of historical materials. Witnesses remember urgent phone calls, rapid deployment of security, and orders to forget what they saw. Someone is not telling the whole truth. Based on all available evidence, certain theories rise above others in credibility. The cave's location near the ancient Temple Mount, its deliberately sealed entrance, and the extreme official response all point toward a discovery with religious significance. Whether it contains actual temple treasures, sacred texts, or something else entirely remains unknown. But the pattern suggests this is not just another archaeological site. The likelihood of the public ever learning the complete truth seems to diminish with each passing month. The longer authorities maintain silence, the easier it becomes to keep maintaining it. Documents can be classified indefinitely. Witnesses can be persuaded or pressured into permanent silence. Evidence can be stored away in government facilities where nobody will ever see it. History shows that some secrets stay buried for generations, yet there is also hope that truth finds a way. Technology advances constantly, making it harder to hide things forever. People's consciences trouble them, leading to deathbed confessions or leaked documents. Political situations change, bringing new leaders with different priorities about transparency. What seems impossible to reveal today might become public knowledge tomorrow. This case reveals something important about the relationship between archaeology and power. Discoveries about the past are never just academic matters. They touch on identity, religion, politics, and money. Who controls access to ancient sites controls the narrative about history itself. In places like Jerusalem, where the past is intensely alive in the present, that control matters enormously. The unanswered questions pile up like stones in an ancient wall. What exactly did those workers see when they first descended into darkness? What have archaeologists found during months of investigation? Why does this particular discovery warrant treatment unlike any other? When will authorities decide the time is right to share information? And most troubling of all, what could possibly be so significant that it requires this level of secrecy? Perhaps someday, someone will write the true story of what lies beneath Jerusalem's streets. Archives will open, participants will speak freely, and the mystery will finally be solved. Until then, the sealed cave keeps its secrets, protected by barriers both physical and bureaucratic, while the world watches and wonders and waits for answers that may never come. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.